Hi guys, welcome to this module on Microsoft Project. What we're going to do today is look at some of the other views that you can get from the view bar or the menus. And the first one we're going to look at is the network diagram. So I'm going to click on the network diagram and there you see it. I can just zoom that down a little bit so you can see the whole thing. Now these are preset tables that you can use. You can select different tables to show different information on this network diagram, but you can also create your own table, which is what I want to do now. So I'm just going to double click on the white area. Now you can see the different types of box that you can select. In my example, most of these are critical, so I'm going to leave it on critical, but just to show you how this works, you have different data templates to select from that are preloaded. So that's the cost one, and then you can see the other ones there. And if I put that back to standard, you've also got the ability to create your own template, which is what I want to do there through this option, more templates. I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to just call this Steve. Now you can change the cell layout if you want. I'm just going to put this to I'll leave it on 3 rows, but put it to 2 columns. Click OK to that. So first one I'm going to type is name for the task name, and you get a preview at the top there. Then I want percentage complete and actual cost. So that's what I would like for this particular template. That's okay if I click OK to that. Click OK, close that box, and then apply that table from this drop down. You should see my name, and then that is shown in the preview box. If I click OK to that, that will then be applied to the relevant boxes. I would also need to select the same table for the milestone markers, but basically that is how you create your own table. Now the benefit of this network diagram is that it's not restricted by the timeline, which the Gantt chart is always restricted by this timeline scale. When you select the network option, you could print this off, and it is not restricted by the timeline, and also it's displayed as a flowchart, so some people find it a lot easier to follow. So that was the network diagram. The next one I want to look at, coming down this left hand side, is the task usage sheet. So there's a task usage sheet, or the view. Now what you have in this view is a list of all the tasks. There's install software room 1, can widen that, and then the resources allocated to that task and so on. And on the right hand side you have the allocation in terms of work hours for the people, and then quantities for the material resources. And if I right click on this right hand side, I can actually see that there are other options I could select. For example, actual work. This then grows if I keep clicking that, cumulative work, and so on and so on. And if I go to the format tab at the top, you can see there is another option there that I could use to activate those features. Now I find if you put too many things on the right hand side, it gets very difficult to look at. But what you do get in this view is the ability to double click on either the task or the resource, and if I just double click on the task, it does give you task information. If I double click on the resource, it doesn't give you resource information in this particular view, it gives you assignment information. So you can see there that this is the assignment information for Anne, and on this particular task she's doing 8 hours. And then you have this feature here called work contor, where it says flat, and then there you have a series of options there for different work contours. These are really used for when you're doing project planning and you're not quite sure of what the loading would be for a resource, but you've got some sort of historical data or data from other sources that you can use. And for example, a backloaded resource would, maybe a project manager doesn't do much during the initial planning phase of a project and then has a lot of work to do towards it. end of the project, or vice versa. That one front loaded, does a lot of work to get it going, doesn't actually do much on the project, and then so on and so on. You've got different options there. It is a tool to use to give you some sort of figures and some sort of costings and predictions, but you need to be careful with it. So I'm just going to try and give you an example of it. Just cancel that off for a minute. If I go onto the Gantt chart and just create a task A, say it's a 10-day task. If I assign, who can I assign to this? And I'll assign Anne to it. Doesn't matter about them being over allocated. Okay, wrong column, my fault. And okay, so Anne's assigned to that task. So if I go into task usage, you can see she's assigned for 80 hours, 10 days, 8 hours a day. But if I double click on Anne and change that work contour to, say, backloaded, watch what happens. Backloaded. She's still assigned for 80 hours, but the duration has increased to 16 days. So that's what you've got to be aware of. Now, the calculations that it uses, it spreads these figures across that range depending on whichever contour you use. So I'm just going to undo that. What I would tend to do is manually set a work contour by maybe going like this: 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 6 hours, 6 hours, 6, 6, 6, and so on and so on, all the way to the end. So you're not increasing the duration, you're just adjusting the actual working hours per day. So that if I was a project manager, she might not be working the full 8 hours a day on the project. So that reflects that, and that therefore you haven't increased the duration, and you've adjusted the work contour, and you get the little symbol in the information column there saying this work assignment has been edited. So that's task usage. So the next one down, or the next one I want to look at, if we're coming down this list, is the timeline. Just going to click on the timeline. Now, on the format tab, it gives you some options there. So you've got existing tasks. So you can populate this with maybe your milestones: room 1 complete, room 2 complete, project complete. Click OK to that. They're all sitting on top of each other at the minute. So let's just go and change some of these dates. 15th, 15th, they all finish on the same date. Okay, let's go back to the timeline and add some different tasks just to make it separate slightly. So install software room 1 and train on software room 2. Okay, and you start getting them populating on there. Now you've also got this the ability to add another time bar. So I'll put that on, and then on the second one, this is going from the 13th to the 24th. So if I click on that and just change that date range to this, say just from the 13th, I keep it on that, just that week, 13th to the 17th. Okay, so that now becomes a smaller timeline, and again you can add tasks on there. Maybe that one fits on there, does it? Yeah. Okay, so it's a bit of a visual thing. Now with timelines, you've got the ability to copy them, send them for email, or put them into PowerPoint through this button. You've also got the option of changing the date format from this side, and you've also got the option to add tasks. So if I click on this one and add a task, I'll just call this review and click OK to that. So that review is sitting over there at the moment, and if I go back to the Gantt chart, that will have added the task review. I'll just get rid of task A and then just get rid of that blank line. If I say that review is going to be a 1-day task and it is going to follow task 10, so it's after the project, you're going to review the project, that sits there. And if I go back to the timeline, the review's moved to the end of the project. So that's the timeline, quick overview of the timeline. The next thing down I want to look at is a quick look at resource usage, which is very similar to task usage, except it is looking at it from a resource perspective. So you've got Anne there, and what Anne's on, she's on install software in 1, so it works in the same way as task usage. Again, if you go to format, you've got the options to tick different things on. If I double click on Anne, it takes me to resource information this time. If I double click on the task, that gives me the assignment information, and that's where I can change the work contour. I'll just cancel that. So it's identical to task usage except from a resource perspective. And one more I want to have a look at is the team planner. Now I'm coming down this view bar to get these views. View bar's not always on when you first get projects, so I always activate it. It used to be a great feature because it was a static feature, but now it's dynamic, so as you click on different views they get added to this list, which is slightly counterintuitive and makes it more difficult to find things, so you end up going up to the top and using the different options from either resource or tasks. So you've got these things up there. So the one I want is actually the team planner, so I'm just going to click on the team planner. So this gives you a very visual indicator of where your people are and what they're doing, and it's a very simple way of allocating a task to a person. It's not great to allocate tasks to 2 people. You would have to do that in your Gantt charts. If I go back to the Gantt chart, you can see that I've added contractors to those 2 tasks, but it's very difficult to add 2 people to the same task. You would have to do it in this view, and then the team planner would reflect that. That's the team planner. Now there's an option there to do more views, and you can also do more views from the top. If I click on view, and then you've got other views and more views. In more views you are able to create your own view, but first of all you can see that there are quite a few other ones preloaded that you can use. But just so you can see how this works, I'm going to create a new view. I'm going to have a combination view, which means it's a split screen. Clicking OK to that, I'll just call it my name, and I will have the Gantt chart on the top. In fact, I'll have the detailed Gantt chart on the top, and then I will have the resource graph at the bottom. Then I'll click OK to that, and then I can apply. In fact, let me just edit that again. Did I tick? Yes, I did. Show in the menu, so it appears over this side, and there it is actually. If I click OK to that and then apply, that should split the screen, and then you get the resource graph at the bottom and the detailed Gantt at the top. So at the moment I can't see anything, so I'll just scroll to task, so it brings things into view. So I'm on the paper resource for install software room 1, but if I scroll back, in this case I should go back through the different resources, and if anybody was over allocated it would show me on this side, it would show in red. At the moment nobody is over allocated, so that's okay. And if I want to remove that view, that split, I can just go back to view and details, take that off. But I've quickly got the ability by clicking Steve there to bring that back. So it's something you would probably do when you're planning your project or allocating resources in your project, so you can see what's going off, and then maybe take it off after that and get back to whatever you find easiest to use. It's all dependent, I think, by the size of the screen you're using. If you're on a laptop, sometimes it's quite difficult to have split screens, but if you've got a large monitor, that's fine. Now that's the end of this module, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you soon.